Today, my guest is Doron Keidar. He's an IDF soldier whose unit was called to respond on October 7th on the terrible and heinous attack perpetrated by Hamas. Today, we're going to dive into everything that conspired on that day and how the war is continuing and how things are evolving. Without further ado, let's get into today's episode. Thank you for, giving us your time, and it's a true honor. If you could just take us through everything that happened on the exact day, on the 7th of October, because that was my wedding day. I remember literally getting dressed, going to the ceremony, and I have some friends who are in the IDF that I went to school with here who went back to serve. I get a text from one of them, and I'm seeing the news, and my dad's already at the church. My dad's the one officiating my wedding. And I send it to him. He's there, and he's in shock the whole day. And when you look back at the clip, you'll be able to see it. He was just like, I can't believe what's happening. And I didn't know the severity of it till that night. But I think with everything that has happened, a lot of people don't truly know how bad it's been. All the propaganda that's been released, the nonsense in the media, people don't actually understand the hurt, the level of lost life that has taken place, the attempted genocide that took place there. People really have no clue. So if you could just take us from the day of the 7th and where you were, what happened, and how that was going.
So the 7th happened to be a Sabbath. It was also the high holy day for the Jewish people, the culmination of the Feast of Tabernacles, which is known as Shmini Atzeret. And so it was a very holy day where the religious Jews that were going to the synagogue, they're reading the special passages of scripture and the special prayers, and basically culminating the Feast of Tabernacles, which is known as one of the most joyous feasts of the Lord. Out of the Feast of the Lord, it's one of the most joyous, and you're commanded actually that you are to be only joyful. So Jews who have had murderous attacks take place during the Feast of Tabernacles have chosen to both mourn and celebrate combined in years past. So it's that kind of a celebration, and we take it so seriously that God says that you are only to celebrate and only to be joyful. And so you can imagine. So on that morning, I was laying in bed. I live just outside of Jerusalem in the mountains. And, my wife woke me up and she shook me awake and she said, the house is shaking. Something's wrong. I don't know what it is. And essentially what was happening is that we were being rocketed from Gaza. So simultaneously on that day, on the 7th of October, we had thousands of rockets fired into Israel, maybe hundreds, but let's just say hundreds for argument's sake. Okay. Every part of Israel was targeted. And so can you imagine that you have hundreds of rockets flying into your communities? The red alert is sounding. The sirens are sounding. I end up running and simultaneously trying to catch up with the news because I'd missed out because I was asleep. And I see my military unit's text that is just non-ending, this and this and this and this. And so it's like hitting you like a barrage, and you're quickly trying to process everything only to discover essentially you woke up to a nightmare. And what we then learned is that over 2,000 terrorists, close to 2,500, had infiltrated Israel from the Gaza Strip. And they went on a slaughter. They went on a slaughter of every Jewish community along the border. In fact, where I'm standing right now is one of those Jewish communities that was targeted. There were terrorists on Hilixes, on Toyota Hilixes, with a big machine gun on the back, just riddling houses, people on the streets. They were shooting RPGs into cars that were driving by. They were just targeting anyone that happened to cross paths with them. People were hiding in their bomb shelters. They were terrified. They would go into the homes, go into the bomb shelter. They'd go knock on the door. They would go knock on the door and say, this is the IDF or this is the police. So hoping that the Jews hiding inside would open the door. And the fate of every one of those who did was a wholesale slaughter of everyone in the room. Men, women, children, babies, it did not matter. They slaughtered everyone. On top of that, they didn't just slaughter people and just shoot them dead. They literally took their time. When they recognized that the IDF and the other units that were supposed to respond had not responded fast enough, and recognized that they had plenty of time on their hands, they took their time and they tied people together, mommy and daddy. They tied them together so that when they're torturing the one parent, the other one is feeling it. And the other one is feeling all the jerks and the pains and the screams and the hollers, okay, as they're gouging out the husband's eyes, or they're cutting off the wife's breasts, all in front of the children. They're also tied together. And then cutting off limbs of the little children. One boy that I know for a fact, and why do we know this? Because these demons filmed it all. So we retrieved the footage, and this is how we witnessed what they did. It's not from word of mouth. They documented it well, and we retrieved all this documentation. And you see this one boy, his eyes gouged out. And he's screaming, "Kill me. Just kill me." Can you imagine, as a child, being in such pain that you're asking for death? No child on this earth, no child, including the Palestinians, by the way, for those who might think that I wish this evil on them, no child on this planet deserves the evil that was done to our people. And so, I mean, the level of cruelty. In one case, I'll give you another beautiful picture, okay, that the world doesn't hear about. Because and the reason why I'm giving you this very graphic information is because I know you're not hearing it. I know you're not aware of the severity, like you pointed out, of what happened. People don't want to know. I've had comments online telling me it's IG, that it's IG, or sorry, excuse me, AI, that it's AI fabricated information. What happened to us? I'm like, AI? These are human beings. We know these people. Israel's a small.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? AI. These are human people that we're talking about. Yeah. And people are so duped in their hatred towards Jews. So this is why I'm saying it's, number one, it's anti-Semitism. Okay? Because how come is it, if it's happening in Darfur, everybody's sending money and food and let's take care of the poor and the starving and the atrocities happen over there, you know? What do you know about Darfur? What do you know about Darfur? Do you know anything about Darfur? Do you know anybody about the conflict? Do you know anybody who's dying there? Do you know who's killing who? You know nothing. Yet your whole heart is open and you want to go help those people, right? It's not because you're African. It's not because you're part of any of the tribes that are fighting there. It's not because you know anything about it. Something horrible when it's Jews. When Jews are being slaughtered. How come we are open season on us from anybody in the world? They can come and slaughter us from Syria. They can come and slaughter us from Lebanon. They can come and slaughter us from Jordan, Egypt, and the Gaza Strip, and the whole world's okay with it, right? The only thing I can explain is it's anti-Semitism, this double standard. And so, any case, another picture to put in people's minds. Can you imagine, as the mother and father are seated there and they're held down, they're being tortured, and then to kind of the final cherry on the top, they took the baby, the infant, and they put him in the oven, and they turned the oven on full, and they basically cooked their child in front of them before they completed the murder of the mother and the father. Cases like this happened over and over and over and over and over throughout all of these communities. We had a police station in Sderot, a town named Sderot, one of the closest communities and one of the largest, closest to the Gaza border. It's just about half a kilometer away. Terrorists came through here, and at one point they got to the police station and they slaughtered all the police officers in the police station. There was only one woman who survived from the whole police station. And by miracle, the Israeli Special Forces unit, Yamam, were able to extract her off the roof where she was wounded badly and probably going to die. They were able to extract her. And then the only way they could finish the deed with the terrorists, because they were hunkered down so well and they had just unending amounts of firepower that they were shooting at the police for a 25-hour gun battle in the middle of the city, mind you, in the middle of the city, houses just right there. And so eventually we had to bring in a tank, and the tank just bombed, the snot out of the building where the terrorists were hiding out, because that was our only option. And that was, of course, after we knew for sure no other police officer was alive. And today, when you look at the police station, it's just a rubble. There's nothing there. And I used to take people there all the time on the tours that I do along the Gaza Strip. I show people the reality here. I show them with their eyes, not propaganda. Mm-hmm. And then typically we would go to the police station where we have had showcased for years a portion of the rockets fired into Israel daily from the Gaza Strip. And it really just gives people a perspective of what we're dealing with. That whole place is gone. So you can only imagine a place that you've been to hundreds of times is now literally rubble on the ground, because it was so destroyed that we had to level the building once we had eliminated all the terrorists. So these are some of the atrocities that were left behind here. I witnessed with my own eyes the well-known nature party that they had just outside the Gaza Strip there. If you guys recall from I forget what they called it, the Nova or whatever the name of the party was. There were thousands of attendants at the party. It was an overnight party. And so, of course, these were secular Jews. They're having, discos and trance and, nature and what have you. And so we're partying all night. They're still awake, the majority of them. And all of a sudden, the music stops. And they're like, why'd you stop the music? And people were shouting and screaming and saying, look, they're men with guns. They're men with guns. And people started to run for their lives. And it was a wholesale slaughter there. A wholesale slaughter of hundreds of people. I believe it was around 500 people, if not more, maybe a little less. I forget exact numbers. But thank God, many of them were able to get out of there. But let me tell you, I saw the campground. I saw the party, you could still see everything was still standing like it was, as if frozen in time, but just bodies everywhere, cars everywhere, riddled. It looked like an apocalyptic scene of insane proportion that your mind, again, just can't wrap around. And so, of course, we would want to go help someone or take care, maybe close the door of a car or pick up a bag or something like that. If we were to do that, you would find yourself dead, because they had booby-trapped the bodies. They had booby-trapped the articles of people that they had, bags, things that you would assume that, as a soldier, you'd come and out of instinct pick up or move aside, hoping that you would get more casualties, of course. So even to get to the people, that's what we had to maneuver our ways through, right? Is booby traps. And people are those who are still alive, for those few that even, were wounded and still living, you're hearing their screams. You want to get to them, but the place is booby trapped. What other things can I tell you? My unit in particular, we had retrieved many bodies from the fields. It took a very long time because of, like I said, a lot of the booby traps. So until we could finally get what we knew were bodies that were laying out in the field, about a week later only was my unit able to retrieve some of the bodies of the soldiers that engaged with the terrorists. They were laying out there for a week. And so we were able to retrieve those bodies and get them back to their families to mourn. We did that a few nights over. And now the operations are ongoing, where we have cut off the northern part of the Gaza Strip. And basically what we're doing is we're working our way very methodically, very slowly through Gaza. And again, for those calling me a baby killer, okay, and how do you feel and how do you sleep at night? I sleep very well, by the way. I sleep very well knowing that we are stopping these terrorists, that we're stopping these demons. And I'm not even going to call them animals, because animals don't even act like this. And to call them an animal is actually to elevate these people. They acted in such cruelty that no human, no animal is known to even acting like. And so we are targeting the terrorists. The terrorists have now gone underground. Hamas is now hiding in underground tunnels that span over 300 miles underground. And just to show you how much Hamas cares about their people, every terror tunnel, access point and exit point, is under a school, a mosque, and a hospital. Every one of them. Another thing that people criticize us for is bombing schools. Bombing hospitals. So I have a question for these people that are so smart and know better than me, who I'm on the ground. Yeah, you're over there in America or in Europe, and you're a keyboard warrior. So here's some information for you that clearly you've missed because of your demonic hatred towards Jews. Because that's clearly the only reason somebody would think such evil of people like us. Why is it that in Jerusalem, which is the capital of Israel and has the highest population of Israel, that we have 4 hospitals, and in the Gaza Strip, where you have less people, as far as I know, or equal to what we have in Jerusalem, why is it that they have over 20 hospitals? Is it because they have more sick people? Is it because they give more birth? You're smarter than me. You probably know. You've Googled it, right? With the vehement hatred towards us. Here's a simple solution and answer for you. It's not any one of those reasons. It's for terrorism. It's so that when Israel retaliates and goes after the terrorists, after the rocket launching pads, which are also in those locations, then when we go after those, Hamas can turn it on us, spin it, and say, look at all the dead bodies, look at all the poor kids, and they'll pull out kids out of rubble, which they actually put there, because our Air Force would never fire a rocket, not a bullet, at any target that has civilian people on it, period. I know that to be a fact. In fact, our pilots are some of the most humane out of all the military. They're known for it. They're known for being the ones who are overly, like refuseness, okay? That they will themselves call themselves out of action if they feel something's wrong. So, for example, in the past year now, where we have had riots on the streets, anti-government propaganda and all this stuff, well, many of the pilots would not show up for their military service in protest of the government. Just to give you an understanding of what you're talking about here. So to accuse these people of being the ones to pull the trigger on civilians is you're telling me how ignorant you are, because these are the people they're trying to basically say, I'm not going to get in an airplane under a government that I feel is too extreme. That's what they're saying. So you think these people are going to be the ones to kill civilians? Well, let me put some context for you. U.S. Air Force, Russian Air Force, China Air Force, Swedish Air Force, any Air Force in the world will carry out orders that will incur civilian casualties.
Yeah.
Ours are the only ones in the military in the world that will walk away from a mission and say, I can't do it. That's a fact. That's a fact. Okay. And it's the same with us, by the way, the ground forces. If I feel that there's a threat to civilians, then I call my command and I say, I'm not doing this. I have the right to do that. It's called an unlawful order, an unlawful command. What military in the world gives their soldiers that kind of power?
None.
And I know that because I know military personnel from every globe every part of the globe: Australia, United States, Canada, Russia, Ukraine, Sweden, Norway. The list goes on. Africa. Nobody does this. Nobody. I asked these fellow warriors. I say, what will you do in this case? And we do that case. And they look at me and they say, you're insane. You would never do this. And I say, well, we do it. Because we believe in a higher standard, and it's actually a biblical standard that the rabbinic authority of the military, it's the only part of the military that the rabbinic authority has any authority over, and that's the moral conduct of our military.
Wow.
So as a secular Jew, that you will vehemently disagree with putting your life at risk for the sake of not hurting the enemy's casualties, that's the standard. And you have to stick to that standard, even if it's disagreeable to you as a secular person. Another fact that the world doesn't talk about. So that's just a little bit of what we've been going through and the reality of our military.
That's, to hear that, first of all, I remember getting a video from someone I knew there of children thrown in the oven, people being mutilated. And I was in shock because I was trying to grasp the level of violence. It's nothing that I've ever seen before. For me, when people explain to me someone getting mutilated, thrown in an oven, all I think about is genocide that's happened on our side of the continent. There's no other word for it. There's no, this was us attacking military targets. This is war. No, this is genocide. I didn't even classify it as terrorism. You go bomb someone or do something else. This wasn't classified as terrorism. This was genocide. And the thing that got me was I was trying to understand people's reaction to Israel saying, we're never going to allow you to do this again. Nobody, I don't care who you are, the level of restraint it would take for all of you men to not be like, oh, this is the end of all of you, and do something so systematically is something that I was trying to explain to people. Like, you need to understand, if somebody did that to your family, there is nobody on earth who would restrain you enough to organize yourself and then carry out a very specific attack. And I think
go inside here because it's starting to rain.
Oh, no problem. And I think when people overlook that, and I had some people who were, oh, well, this is so bad, it's happening to Palestine. I'm like, you have a very short memory, my friend. Very, very short memory. October 7th is a day, personally, for me, I will never forget. Because as I was trying to have a happy moment, I eventually and slowly realized, hey, Rob, you know what? Your wedding day is going to be the day that you and your family are going to remember this happened in Israel. And my family and my parents, and they visit Israel quite a bit. They take people there always. And one of the things that I remember trying to talk to someone about, I said, hey, listen, let's stop for a second. You and me are not on the ground. There are people on the ground there. In fact, the son of the Hamas leader himself is the one, like, we have opinions. We're safe here. But the
Correct.
leader who has a son is out here telling the world what Hamas does. And
Yeah.
I've been telling people, terrorism, what's so bad about this, I think 3 weeks before my wedding day, at our church, they found a bomb. And
Wow.
this was bought here by ADF, Al-Qaeda people. They got our church security is very well put together, very organized. They were able to stop the man and capture him. And I was saying, what
Thank
was
God.
about to happen to us was terrorism. What happened in
Correct.
Israel was genocide.
Correct.
Was trying to, like, you're trying to wipe out a group of people.
Exactly. That's
And
exactly it.
the charter of Hamas, and that's why I always tell people, my dad's a very believer in this. The currency that growing up in our household was reading. The
Good.
charter for Hamas, he went up on the pulpit. When he had the Israeli ambassador, he had him twice. He went up and he said, the charter for Hamas is to wipe out Israel. He said, that's the first thing. And he reads it for them. And people are like, oh my God, like, nobody shares this information. Like, and for me, the thing that has saddened me so much is how people have forgotten. This happened a month ago, and people are forgetting why this conflict is here. And
correct.
I can't. I have friends who usually when we've lost a loved one, I know how to, like, we comfort you, we'll be there for you. I have friends now, I don't know what to say to them. It's one of the things to where, like, I had a friend, I picked up the phone, we were talking, and he's telling me everything that's happening to him. He's lost his father, his brother, his mother was out of the country at the time. I don't know what to tell him, because this isn't like the level of anger he feels, how sad he is. He's trying to comfort his neighbors, his community at the same time. And
exactly,
this, historically, I don't think there's been an attack like this since the Holocaust ever on Jews. Not even close.
That's exactly it. You're right. That's exactly it. There's never been such an attack and such a horrific way of murdering our people. Can you imagine your little baby daughter being raped? A baby, I'm talking about months old, baby, raped, mutilated, tortured, and only then killed. Like, that level of evil towards your whole family. And while we left our home, by the way, that very morning, every one of my unit left our home. I left my family under barrage of attack from rockets. The siren was going. They're in the bomb shelter. I'm in my military uniform. I grab all my gear. Knowing if the terrorists were going to make it to my home and go and slaughter and rape and torture my family. And then I have to keep my head in the game and think about the missions, think about the objectives, think about, like you pointed out, how I'm not going to wholesale slaughter these people because I can, and that I'm going to execute my missions professionally. The level of all of that, and to try to bottle that, articulate that, there's no words. I can't even express to you what that feeling was, that horrible feeling that I don't wish on my enemies. You know, we've been grateful and thankful that we've been able to see our families since. I just got back from leave, and that's why we're able to have this conversation, because I'm not back on the field yet. And it's not easy. It's not easy for our families to be on the home front for weeks at a time here. We're into our 7th week now, right? We just ended 6 weeks of this conflict. We're now entering into our 7th week of fighting. There's no end in sight that we know about. Nobody's telling us, hey, you're going to get to go back to your families, to your business. Anybody listening? Okay, your business on hold for 6 weeks. Could you do that? Ask yourselves that. Are you capable of doing that? This is what's being asked of us. And again, for those criticizing us of atrocities and evil done to the Palestinians, those people are ignorant, either like they literally have no clue what they're talking about, or as I pointed out, they are vehemently anti-Semitic and they have no problem with having a double standard for Jews being wholesale slaughtered, but everyone else, we got to go fight for them and send them money and take care of the poor people of the world, right? Your heart is only so big. It cannot reach the 14 million Jews of the world. I get it. I understand. It's a very big ask. Sorry. Is you can hear my sarcasm, right?
Yeah, I can.
These people aren't getting it. But that's like how do you expect me to how do you expect me to have a conversation with a person like that accuses me of being a murderer? Look at photos of kids being pulled out of rubble by Israeli airstrikes when they fail to recognize, well, why were they there in the first place? Does your military send pamphlets over whole cities that are going to get bombed to tell the bad guys we're about to come? No military does that in the world. Do your military intelligence community call cell phones of individuals of those towns personally to tell them to get out of town? No, nobody does that. That's the level of what we do. So any civilian who's left behind in any area that we are targeting because the terrorists are there, number one, the blood is on your head for not leaving. And number two, it's on Hamas not letting you leave. Those are the two scenarios why these people are not leaving. And if you choose to be a victim, that was your choice. I did not put my family in front of the rockets being fired at them. In contrast, we have dispossessed about over 1 million Jews that have left the conflict areas and they're going to other safer parts of the country. To give you an example, so it's like, oh, you expect them to just up and leave? Yes, I do, because that's what we do. And nobody sends us pamphlets. Nobody tells us, hey, it's the right thing to do. If you're being targeted daily by terrorists and you know that your military is trying to eliminate that threat until that business is done, then yeah, you can up and leave. And not just that, our government will pay for it, for your relocation. We take care of you. And there are many actually outside of the government package, because the government can't allow everybody, okay, because basically most of the country is under attack. And then we have nonprofits that take care of those people as well. So in other words, if we could take care of ourselves,
that's incredible.
And like I said, in the comfort of their home, make these accusations because it's easy for you. You're in an air-conditioned room. You have internet, things that you take for granted. Go to Africa, okay? Go to Africa, and I'll show you places where people don't even have electricity, and they have candles for light. And here you are sipping on your, latte with the skim, no milk, no this, no that, no nothing, whatever it is, crap. And you're flying on your high-speed internet and just shooting evil hatred towards people you don't even know.
Yeah.
How dare you? How dare you think that you have a right? You've never stepped as us of any of these things because you obviously don't know. And you pointed out there are people like me who are on the ground, and I can tell you my perspective. And then you gave a good example of Musab Hassan Youssef, who is the son of one of the founders of Hamas, who has left Hamas and is living in hiding because he speaks openly against Hamas and openly and puts the blame squarely on Hamas for all of the Palestinian victims of this war. So if he can say so, who has lived the life, who has, trust me, he's been through hell as a young boy. The stuff that he's been through, I actually know it because I have the intelligence brief on the
Oh,
stuff that
wow.
he's been through as a kid. He has not had an easy life. He's talking from experience. I'm talking from experience, but on the other side of the fence, with all due respect. And my experience is a lot more privileged than his. And I'm even saying that to you because I don't grow up under terrorism. I don't grow up
Yeah.
under tyranny. I grew up under a free government. I can go and vote. Okay. We have startups. We have
Wow.
a lot of good things in Israel. And so my only gripe is with the evil that is targeted against us, and it is stealing everything that we have built and everything that we have invested our lives into. That's who I'm blaming my conflict with, if you will. And have you noticed I haven't said I hate Palestinians? Have you noticed I haven't said I want them all dead?
I've
Have you noticed
noticed
that?
I've noticed your restraint. And I think that that is something me and my family have grown to understand about
Yeah.
the Jewish people and the people in Israel. I think that's something that people genuinely need to grasp, because
Yeah.
it would be like this. If somebody was attacking me every day and I don't hit them back, and then the day I defend myself, the teachers come in and say, "Hey, what are you doing?" Don't reprimand the
Exactly.
person, even though they saw him attack me. They're like, "Hey, why are you hitting him?" And I think that
Yeah.
that's something that people don't understand. They overlook it. They forget that these guys are regular people. They're normal people. They have the same emotions we do, if anything, stronger. But
Yeah.
and I, from everything I know about Israel, I can say for a fact that if Israel really wanted to wipe out Palestine, that wouldn't be difficult. But
It
for
wouldn't be
them to,
6 weeks. Wouldn't
and
be
it wouldn't
6
be
weeks.
6 weeks.
We would have done it in a few days. In less than a week, the whole Gaza Strip would have been leveled. I'm telling you that as a fact.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another thing for those that hate us so bad and say that we just want them all dead. Then again, ask the question: why do they have so many hospitals? Simple questions.
Yeah.
Why is Israel taking so long? Why? Do you know that it costs us about, I forget the exact numbers, but it's in the billions weekly to fight this war? In the billions. Why? Why do we incur this financial debt that we don't need when I can get it over with? Why hang on to all of these reservists? All these
Mm-hmm.
people who they need to compensate for what I'm not getting paid in my job because I'm not at work, right? Anybody ask that question? Do they even care to ask that question? Of course they don't, because they don't look farther than the nose on their face.
Yeah.
Think for a minute before you make an accusation. Think for a minute, why is it that Doron Keidar and his guys are still in Gaza slaughtering babies? What, you think it takes us that long to kill so many people? Is that it? I mean, use your brains. Trust me, it's not that we physically, I want to put my hands on every on every Palestinian and just slaughter them. No. In fact, if I wanted them dead, to be honest, I would much rather not endanger myself and my men and just bomb them to death and be over with it. That would be an easy solution. That would be a right solution in many world's eyes. Let me just take people back to the United States with World War II and the bombing of Hiroshima. America did it. Other countries have done it. You know, Germany bombed England. England bombed Germany. City populations.
Yeah.
We could do it, but we don't.
And I think people don't even understand the severity. Iran has been backing Hamas for God knows how long. Hamas is not just some innocent party. I mean, they were elected when you guys left. They were elected.
They weren't elected.
They weren't elected.
They slaughtered every opposition. They would push people off roofs. They would put them on chairs, and just toss them off the side of high rises. All of their political opposition, including all the homosexuals, so-called homosexuals, right? Whatever they could label you as or target you as, and justify the wholesale slaughter of their opponents. Yeah, that's how they got into office. And by the way, how come there hasn't been an election since? Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't an election.
This is insane because people don't hear this stuff.
No.
Like, and the last video someone sent me was people trying to leave Gaza and then getting gunned down by AK fire by Hamas.
Correct.
I don't know how people are trying, how you quantify looking at that, because the IDF isn't doing that.
We're actually making an area that is giving you easy access to the safe area that we're not targeting. We're creating that. And we're assisting and securing that area for them to flee. We're doing it.
And I see soldiers walking into, like, some of these videos have been sent to me and they're popping up on social media here and there shortly. But you see a team of soldiers walk into an area. I mean, open lines of sight from rooftops and buildings just to deliver water. And I'm like, what? They could get shot, they could get ambushed, but they're delivering supplies to these people, which they don't have to.
Yeah. To the Palestinians. That's right. That's right. And by the way, we have personally been involved with those supplies. So I'm telling you firsthand, I've seen it. It's not a hearsay. It's not.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
What would you tell somebody who's young and seeing all of this and trying to piece it together? Because from what I see, it's not, oh, I think Palestine's right. I feel like it's a lot of peer pressure. It's groups. Somebody sees this, doesn't really agree, but is scared to say, hey, I don't stand with this. I know what happened October 7th. I know it's been happening. This is what I believe in. This is what I see. But because of maybe 6 of their friends want to go out to support Palestine, they don't know what to do. What would you tell a young person in terms of seeing this information and trying to, one, digest it, but also coming out with proper reasoning when it comes to this?
Well, there, I think I'll do it like that. Honestly, because here's the thing, no matter what I say, that's my perspective over someone else's. That's my word over whatever you've exposed yourself to. And I can tell you this, a lot of my online conversation with Muslim supportives of the Palestinians, right? Typically they're Muslim, and typically their information is given to them through the Arab media outlets that are vehemently anti-Israel, clearly. And so I tell them, I said, my answer to them is always the same thing. I said, do you listen to yourself? Notice the numbers you just gave me, the statistics you just gave me. And I asked him, where did you get it from? Show me where that's from. Show it to me. Don't throw numbers at me that don't mean anything. Where did you get it? And they don't know. And I say, the answer is simple. It's your propaganda media that you're listening to, that you're trusting, and that you're believing over my facts. Here's a fact for you. And then I give them a fact. Like, for example, the number of hospitals in Gaza. That's a fact. That's not. You could open up Google Earth, by the way, any one of us on Earth, and you can just verify what I just told you. Doron, you lied. There's 19.5 hospitals. Well, wonderful. So you just proved what I just said is 2 hospitals in Gaza. And Doron was totally lying to me. So there's simple ways for you to fact check me and what I'm telling you. And that's why I tell these people, I said, listen, I'm giving you facts. Here's a fact. Here's a fact. Here's a fact. Here's a fact. You just gave a fact of the Hamas charter. That's a fact. What's Israel's charter against the Palestinians? Has anybody asked that? No, because you don't care to ask those simple questions. The simple answer is we don't have a charter against the Palestinians or Hamas or the PA, okay, or any of the Palestinian factions. we don't have a charter. What we have is a declaration of independence for the state of Israel and the desire to live at peace with all our neighbors, including the Palestinians. That's Israel's charter, if you will, okay? And notice that none of anything within our official government statements, either in the founding of the state of Israel in 48, and remember, founding of the state of Israel, because we have been here for over 4,000 years.
Yes.
In contrast to anybody else. So we've been here for thousands of years. We have come back to our homeland. We have every right to be here, just like you as an Arab have, or Druze, or Cherkessian. Oh, I'm sorry. You didn't think there's people like that living here? Oh, and Bedouins? Oh, that's right. Yes. Facts. Facts. Okay. Armenians. Did you ever think about those people? That's also a people group that lives here. It's not just Palestinians and Jews. It's just another fact. It's not just Ashkenazi white Jews who live here. We have Arab Jews from Iraq, from Yemen, and they look Arab and they speak Arabic. Okay, they are Arabic Jews. Okay, so again, we have Ethiopian Jews, we have Asian Jews, we have Jews from all over the world. So again, more ignorance to these people who label us as, what is it, white colonialists? No, we're not United States of America. And clearly, most of my people that I grew up with, they don't speak like I do. They don't have a good American accent. They didn't grow up in the United States as white supremacists or in England and colonialize the world like people like to claim. And it's just an extension of those colonies. Quite the opposite. We were colonized by Great Britain. Yeah. And the Arabs and Jews that were living here got settled the way Great Britain and the League of Nations had decided based on certain facts that they were presented with. And that's the reality that we find ourselves in, just like you in Africa, and just like you in Asia, and just like you in North America or in South America. Every nation, every country is founded on a conflict. And either settled or not settled issues between the two parties or three parties or four parties or however many involved. But the only exception, like I said, because of anti-Semitism, is us. We're the only ones who don't deserve to have a fight in who gets to live where, who gets to have self-determination. It's only the Palestinians, which, by the way, ironically, are the only ones who are not indigenous to the land of Israel. Isn't that funny? The Palestinians they're not even a people group, by the way. There isn't such a thing as a Palestinian, okay, as a people
group.
That's
very true.
What there is you have Jordanian Arabs, Egyptian Arabs, Syrian Arabs, Lebanese Arabs, etc., Iraqi, and so on. And then you have tribes, okay, in those countries. And those tribes, the one who is on the lowest part of the tribe, of the totem pole, they are what we call Palestinians. They're the unwanted Arabs within those Arab countries who have found an asylum in Israel because no one else wanted them. And here's another question that you can ask your friends who think they're so smart. How come is it not one of those Arab countries who have, of the Palestinians, of their own people who came from them years past, pre-48, how come they don't want to take them in? How come not one Arab country has stepped up to the plate out of 22 Muslim Arab countries who live in our region? How come not one? Why does the only Jewish state have to take care of Muslim Arabs? That's a simple question I have for the world. Why is it my problem? To be honest, I feel like I've been shortchanged. To be honest, I feel like I've been taken advantage of. I came back to my ancestral homeland, and these Arabs came because of Jewish entrepreneurial vineyards, power stations, water plants, etc., that we brought to a desolate land. And they heard that there was wealthy Jews where they could make money. And that's why a lot of them came. And then a lot of them came because, like I said, they were unwanted from the Arab world that they lived in. So when they fought with the Arab wars against us in 1948 and up after 1967, those Arab nations would not take them back after those wars. So this is one of the two reasons you'll have Arabs living here, that the population of the Muslim Arabs swelled after the 1800s was because of Jewish entrepreneurship, number one. Two, post-war attempted genocide of the Jews living here.
I think this has a lot to do with education. I have a Muslim history teacher, one of my biggest mentors. And when people hear me say that as a Christian, as a pastor's kid, and they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah." And shockingly enough, Muhammad 𝐦𝐤𝐬 taught everything accurately. To this day, everything accurately. He will say, "Well, that's not correct. Those aren't an actual form of people. That doesn't make sense with that government." And I remember we had a melting pot of people in our class in high school, and he would honestly say, he says, "Yeah, Israel's going through a lot, but we also have to understand." And he would read charters, he would read everything, and he would teach people, because a lot of kids would come here with their like families, ideas, this, and he was a guy who would say, "Well, that's not true. This is what happened." And he would explain things. And back then, growing up, nothing was very polarized because he was teaching people. And I think the way things are now, it's no longer education. It's just, I saw this on social media. It's true.
It's propaganda, basically. And one way or another. Yeah.
Very much so. And when you look at something that is horrific, and somebody has the ability to say, "This is AI generated," you have to be crazy. Because I watched a video, and then I saw pictures of IDF soldiers going into a home, finding bodies, opening ovens, cabinets, and just bawling and crying.
Yeah.
And I remember my dad was here, and he was like, "Oh, are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah." And I told him the video I'd just seen of them finding children in an oven, and the video of them throwing the kids in the oven. And I was telling him the story, and I just told him that I don't have the heart to send this to you. I don't have the heart to send this to you. I personally don't want you to see it. I told my wife, I don't want you to see this. I don't have the heart to show this to anyone. I really don't. I want people to know what's happened, but I didn't have it in me. And I remember he said, "No, Robert, people need to see it. People actually need to see it." And the day he had the Israeli ambassador, I was like, "Dad, I don't know how people are going to receive being." He said, "No, people need to see. It's one thing that I tell you." And he went on to, this is live broadcast television where you have all these rules and regulations what you can't do. He put the pictures up and he said, "You have to look at this." And this was live on TV, and then an hour later, live in service.
In what country is this?
This is Uganda.
Are we talking?
Uganda.
In Uganda. Okay. Wow.
And live, and he tells people, "This is what's happening. These people are demons and they're animals." This is live, because people were watching a very watered down version on television. Like, "Oh, there was a terrorist attack on the 7th. No, there was genocide on the 7th. And he goes, "No, Robert, people need to see this." He says, "The same way you don't have it in me to show me," he said, "you need," and he said something that was very, very important. He said, "People in Israel might not be able to want to look at this again, or to even want to show people," but he said, "I'm going to show everybody so they know." He said, "People don't have I can tell you, hey, they mutilated my mother. I can say it with those words. But for you to have a visual image that goes with the day, October 7th, is something totally different." I couldn't, when I remember messaging you, and I'm so glad you were able, to talk and give us the time, and all the people who are going to see this on our TV station and across the country, from government officials to just the regular people, will be able to know and see what takes place. Because I feel so many they've come up and they ask us, Hey, by the way, which is another question. They're like, what do we do? How do we help? Is there anything we can do? And
Yeah.
a lot of people, they were shocked. Like there are people in our church who saw the picture and they were like this. They couldn't even look up anymore. And
Yeah. And you've seen a few atrocities in your history.
yep, we've seen a few atrocities in our history. And when I tell you, I couldn't. If I don't even think the sickest mind could come up with what was done. That's what bothered me. He said, "They're people I couldn't wish this on my worst enemy."
Exactly.
It's
That's
one
exactly
thing to
it.
shoot fighting aged male soldiers. It's another thing
Yep.
to. I had a friend who, he's over there with an unnamed United States Special Forces team who was telling me, he's like, bro, they were wearing special forces uniforms, soldier uniforms of the IDF. They killed these men, wore their uniforms, and they were walking around shooting first responders. And I was like, wait, what are you talking
Correct.
about? He's
Correct.
like,
That's exactly right.
you guys have incurred so many losses from your special
Yep.
operations, your police, just because they were ambushed by them thinking their teammates or other support
Correct.
elements were there. And turns out it was.
That's right.
I can't even.
Yep.
When I'm
one of my
talking to you,
teammates was in that. One of my teammates, he was in that. He was one of the first responders that showed up. I'm thinking if I can't say what unit, it doesn't matter, but it's a very classified unit. He just retired, by the way, so we drafted him. So this is a guy with tons of experience, and he was on the very first day. He was with his unit. They were driving down to one of the areas that were targeted, and the terrorists performed a professional checkpoint like we do. And thanks to God for these men's sharp experience and what have you, the driver slowed down. He could tell from a few hundred meters away there was something off about these guys. He didn't know what, but everything looked the right way, the way we do a checkpoint, everything, because they mimicked us one for one. And what happened was, because the terrorists noticed that they were hesitant, they started opening fire. The whole van was riddled. None of the operators got killed during that episode, and they were able to take out all the terrorists. But in another incident, for example, they shot an RPG at one of those vehicles, and all the operators were murdered instantly. So yeah, it got very, very bad, and we incurred some very heavy losses because of the enemy plays dirty. Which, again, you know what? It is what it is. It's warfare, and I respect the enemy. I respect them for their tactics, trying to to hurt us. But I never will respect you for what you did to our families. On the battlefield, all is fair in love and war. But when they did what they did to our families, that's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, I'm not crying about what they did. Lessons learned. Thank you. I chalked it up as experience. Another lesson learned. Now I'm going to be a better warrior on the battlefield thanks to your tactics and what you did. We're good. There's, what I'm saying? I don't take it personal when you outsmarted me or what have you. Fine. Lesson learned. So.
But that, for me, every story I've heard, it looks like something out of a terrible war movie that you couldn't actually imagine. And
more like a horror movie,
yeah,
actually, is how we've described it.
And what's it been like ever since? And one of the questions I had, because I heard you're the first person, or you're a person on the ground, that it was taking days to clear out the terrorists that they were finding, because some of them were hiding and running around, and
weeks, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, we found terrorists weeks still hiding in civilian population. Oh yeah.
And for the situation there, how has it been for soldiers? One, like, I'm fascinated. The thing, if you were to ask me, Robert, what are you fascinated by? One, I'm fascinated by the resolve of all of you. But two, I'm also fascinated by your level of restraint. Yeah. And how have you been able to keep your focus, your morale, but also to keep this level of restraint? Because there is, I am in shock. Like, knowing Israel's capability and just seeing how poised the soldiers are, how focused on helping others they are, how you guys hold back. And like seeing the helmet, I feel like if people could just watch all the helmet cam footage of everything, of the soldiers just not opening fire, doing their best to maneuver on a situation that if I'm looking at it, I'm like, no, man, just blow up the building to go around and enter to clear it, to clear a building.
Yeah,
just to make sure there's nobody.
When you have a tank, you got a tank. Yeah. So I can tell every operation that we have a tank. We have not a tank, but again, I'm not going to give numbers because for tactical security. But let's just say we have tank power, we have artillery power, we have Apache power, we have other elements of Air Force power. I have, for my units, we all have rocket propelled capabilities. In other words, I could level the building. I could level the whole room where the terrorists are at. But like you pointed out, we opt to use less lethal solutions to avoid civilian casualties from the Palestinians. And again, to reiterate, that is why we're taking so long with this war. We're not taking our time because we want to. And why do we have that restraint? My only answer to you is because I fear God. I fear God, and if it wasn't for my fear of God, I would, as a human, I can't imagine how I would react. Okay, but because I have a higher standard that I'm living my life by, and that standard that I'm committed to, I know I would never be able to look my family in the face again, or any of my friends, or anyone, if I act out of conduct, if I act outside of God's word. And so, yes. And here's again, a contrast between this Islamic extreme jihadists who also say they're fighting on behalf of their God, but clearly we don't serve the same God. And clearly, whatever motivates them comes from the pit of hell. And obviously what motivates me, in my opinion, doesn't, because if it were, then I would be that hell for you, which I'm not. And I guarantee you, we could be much worse. We could clearly be much worse. Yeah. We have way more capability, and we choose not to. And that is the power of Israel. That's the strength of Israel. That is exactly why we are different. That is exactly why the world should fear us, not because of the atrocities we're doing in Gaza, but because of the lack of atrocities.
Like, I think that is what you've just said resonates with me in a way, because it just shows, when you said I can't do this because I fear God, that right there is something I'm going to carry with me the rest of my life. That is that shows a separation between good versus evil. That shows a separation between good versus evil. And first of all, we are praying for you. If there's any way we can send support as people, please let us know. One, where people can find you to get information and updates. And I don't know if there are things or supplies or whatever that whoever sees this and says, hey, I want to reach out and see what we could do. How would people go about doing that?
Well, you can just follow me on social media. Look up my name, Doron Keidar. I'm on Instagram, Facebook. Again, I'm not fully active right now on any of those channels, but whatever is getting out is getting out. I also have my team that helps with our nonprofit, so they're keeping people posted and up to date. And we have a daily, I don't know if it's daily, but there's a vlog a blog where we're writing updates about the war and what's happening. And so I'll send you all those links.
Thank you.
You have to put them, and people are welcome to check those out. And and then we also have a nonprofit to help support the soldiers. Being that I'm in the outfit, so to speak, I know what the needs are because I'm here. I can see here's something that's lacking. Here's something the military doesn't provide. Not because the military's poor or whatever. It's like small things, small things that elevate your comfort in wartime, and your time away from home. So that's essentially what we take care of with our nonprofit, and make sure to get to all of our guys wherever we can reach them, and essentially that's what we do.
Wow, thank you. Oh, so we'll make sure those links are in the bottom of this video, and if people are watching on TV, we will make sure those links are running across the screen, man. I want to say thank you for your time. Just know that our family is praying for you guys. We are supporting you guys. Our church is supporting you guys. Our country is supporting you guys. I know that's something you're not hearing a lot with all of these nonsensical protests that are running around the globe. Yeah. But I want you guys to know that in Uganda, you have support in our church and our ministry across the United States. There's so many ministries, which I will link down below. I told my dad that, hey, my message, Doron, we'll have a small little chat and an interview. And he was like, thank you. I sent your information. And he was sending it out to all the people in the States and saying, hey, we'll do our best to find out how can we support. Just know that there are people whose heads are screwed on straight, who are praying for you guys, who love you guys, who are championing you on. We know a victory for you guys is a victory for all of us. That this terrorist organization needs to be put away because they'll never stop. And
correct.
We thank you guys for standing for your families, and we pray for those who have lost so much. But you're not only an inspiration, man, but you're a true warrior. You're a true warrior. And just by talking to you just for an hour and a few minutes, I've been able to grasp just the love you have for human life. And the restraint that you guys have shown is absolutely incredible. And thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute blessing.
Well, I really appreciate your platform, and I appreciate your country. And I'll always remember just the beauty of my last visit in Uganda back in 2011, I think it was. And so I really appreciate the people, the culture. It was beautiful. It was a wonderful experience. You have a beautiful country. I love that red earth that you guys have. and that in the tropical nature that's just so different than what we have here. And so there's just lots of love and blessings back to you from us here, and a huge appreciation that your country is supporting and standing with us, and recognizing that, exactly like you said, we're fighting this not just for ourselves, but really for most of the world, that this will ripple effect if we don't take care of it here. So
thank you so much. Well, send me those links. We're going to put them in the description box, and share this. And again, to all of the troops, your entire unit that's with you, I know you're absolutely busy, and you're for those that don't know how, if you're watching this, why I value him so much. I DM'd him just a day ago, and he was like, hey man, we can talk right before I head back into operations. And in my head, I'm like, what? He's actually, I was like, hey, okay, this is great. And I just want to say thank you, man. You are, to give us time while you're operating and running around. And I know today you're most likely you were just spending some time with your family. So I'm truly
Yep.
honored for your time. I am truly honored for your time because you could be right now prepping to go back into battle, and you're here talking to us. So thank you again, thank you again,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, brother.